picture of you, Kevin. So maybe I'll just have to put up the.
No one wants to see that anyways. It's fine.
I'll put
I'm a
up the
sound guy
condor.
for a reason. I have a face that's great for radio.
I'll put up the condor, so that can be you, with the arm, with the beefy arm. There we go.
That's pretty accurate, yeah.
That's exactly
you know what's funny? If my coworkers were here, my co-founder Jeff and so forth, the whole team, there was one morning I woke up on, we have our Skype morning call in the morning, right? And I had the best morning hair of all time, and my beard was the fluffiest it's been in years. And they said I looked like a freshly hatched bird. And that was like a year ago, and I still get called a bird almost daily. So it's stuck.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a pretty accurate. I mean, the bicep especially, right?
Especially the bicep, yeah, for sure.
I think that is my arm, actually.
Yeah.
It could be. We got it off Google, so if you've been taking pictures of your bicep and posting them all over Google.
Yeah.
There it is. Very good. Alrighty, well, let me pull up the, so I had some questions, and you both can take a shot at answering them. I think a lot of them are going to be geared towards Ryan. That was sort of how we originally planned it, but feel free if you both want to sort of respond. I think that's totally cool. But yeah, basically I asked Twitter a bunch for some questions, and so this first one here comes from Tic Tac Fo, saying, how did you come up with the decision to use Twitch casters as a way to promote the game? And so, yeah, if you want to talk about sort of your decision process, were you inspired by like another game dev that may have done that, or what was the plan there?
No, it was not really a plan. It just sort of happened. Denny knows Man vs. Game fairly well. I think they hang out IRL sometimes and know each other in real life. So when we had like early builds that we were, getting ready for packs and things like that, Danny asked if we wanted to show it to Man, and so Man, I'm pretty sure he was the first one ever to play it on a stream or even YouTube or anything. He was the first one ever to show it, and he had a bunch of us come on the cast and chat with him and stuff over Skype while it was going on, and it was a blast, and chat seemed to be having fun, and Man loved the game, and so I don't know, it became clear there that it was it was a fun game to stream, and other people started asking us after that if they could have the build as well so that they could stream it. So it just sort of snowballed. It was never never my intent at all. The speedrun stuff, I definitely hoped that it would be speedrunnable. Like obviously Spelunky, people speedrun that, and I had been watching B-Rex and things like that, like everybody speedrunning Spelunky, seeing some of his awesome exploits that he had back in the day.
Sure, yeah.
And so I was hoping that we would be able to make NecroDancer speedrunnable as well. But yeah, it wasn't until I don't know at what point during dev we started speedrunning it. Kevin and I both were like just speedrunning it for fun, and I was having so much fun. It was the only way that I wanted to play the game. So after that, it kind of became a focus of the design, and that just sort of dovetailed really well with how people wanted to play it on Twitch. So it was organic, never the plan at all. It just happened.
That's fascinating, because we've definitely seen some other indie game devs do similar things since then. Do you think that you might have had some impact on that?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
I can say probably.
Yeah, well, I guess,
In my
Kevin,
position,
you worked with
probably.
Darkest Dungeons, and Darkest Dungeons definitely pushed for the main menu event. And it does seem like...
the Week of Torment, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And so it seems like the game dev community is sort of taking to Twitch a little bit and finding that it is a pretty good promotional tool.
Yeah, I think it's... right now, there isn't... I mean, so... Relatively recently, really, in the grand scheme of things, Twitch implemented the game development category, right? And they hadn't even... That wasn't there for a long time. So if I was working on NecroDancer on stream, like on our dev stream, I would say, like, Power Up Audio is playing NecroDancer, which isn't actually true in a lot of the cases when I'm working on the game, right?
Right.
Or I could be working on Action Hank or Darkest Dungeon or whatever. So finally, they spoke to a lot of developers who were frequent on Twitch and said, we're putting in a category, how do you feel about that? And we're all fully on board. But it's still pretty rare. Like, there aren't that many game developers on there who are really active. Yeah. I mean, I'm on there weekly, Slick is on there weekly, Ryan's on there occasionally. Mm-hmm. I know like some voxel artists is on there, and some, Vlambeer's like super active on Twitch. It's great. And I think it's fast becoming a great way to kind of get your name out there and be part of the community and and be inclusive and just share, what you already love with people who love it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's sort of a neat thing. I've definitely actually, not to humble brag, but I've been contacted by a few game devs they're like, here's a free version of my game if you may want to try it.
Yeah,
so
totally.
It seems like that's sort of part of the sort of scene now is like, okay, let's find a Twitch, and I think like I've actually admittedly been contacted by somebody who was like, I am a promotional company representing so-and-so, and I would like for you to try my game. I think your viewers would like it. And then I looked at it, and it was like this sort of weird endless runner that I did not like the look of. And I'm like, I don't think my viewers would. So I was like, thanks, but no thanks. But there's been a few that I have gone with as well, just because I think I absolutely love the indie game community. And so I think it's cool to support it, especially if it's a game I really, really love. Like NecroDancer.
Yeah, it's kind of a whole question. I mean, it's so a while back. I mean, Ryan's been in game development a bit longer than I have.
Sure.
And I think he'd probably agree that just the way that you do marketing has shifted in like a lot in like over the past decade even.
Oh yeah.
And
definitely.
I mean, if you look at something like, look back even further, and your marketing is, I don't know, like magazines or television, like only.
Yeah.
And now we have, we have YouTube content creators and Twitch streamers and all kinds like that. And it's an exchange of, it's a mutually beneficial exchange when you say, hey, like check out my game. And really for magazines it would be too, because you're saying here's content, like review this game, put this in a page of your magazine, and in return I'll get exposure, and hopefully it won't be like a 40% review.
Right, yeah, there's that. That's true. Yeah, I've always sort of said whenever I'm streaming somebody's indie game, it's like, I'm going to be honest about your game though. Like I don't want to be like, this is amazing. And also like, what really am I getting out of it? Yeah, there's content, but I can stream any game really. So there's that. But anyway, all right, let's go on to the next question, because we do have a number here. I don't want this to take too long. But Fion asked me a question to ask you. So could you give us some information on the background of Coda? Who is Coda, and what is his or her relation to the NecroDancer, Cadence's family, and the crypt in general? And also, just to sort of tack on to that, probably not a Roomba asked, why does Coda exist as a character? So let's lump all of that together.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, you got the wrong guy on the call, because Ted was the one who invented Coda the character. I came up with the design of Coda, putting her in the game, and the reason I did that is because I originally designed Arya such that she would be really freaking hard, right? Yeah. But she's not that super hard. She's definitely difficult, but she's not like as impossible as I thought that she was going to be.
Yeah.
Especially back when I used to like. Obviously, we went to lots of shows like PAX and things like that, and talking to people about the game. And when we tell them, oh, and we also have this character called Arya that if you miss a beat, you die, and if you get hit at all, you die. You can only have a dagger, and their face, they looked like they thought it was impossible. Especially, I think, because that shows they were playing the game often on dance pads and stuff, which Arya would be pretty freaking difficult. Are you gonna try and pull that off? Yeah,
I'm gonna try. I'll put some serious time into that for sure. We'll see. That'd be something. Because I originally thought when we were making the initial design of the game like 2 years ago, Arya wasn't necessarily going to be like a character you had to beat in order to reveal all the story. That kind of came later. Yeah. And so I thought that she was just going to be the ultimate challenge. And obviously she's not the ultimate challenge, because people who, I think if you put in maybe 100 hours in the game, or even less, you can probably beat Arya. I think definitely less if you're not doing all zones mode. Like if you're just beating the zones individually, I think you could probably beat Arya in like 40 hours or 50 hours or something like that. So
yeah, back at like the first PAX Prime, we're having beers after the conference and saying, oh man, it would be amazing is like a character where you have a dagger only and you'll die in a missed beat. It's gonna be crazy. Like no one will ever beat it.
And now it's like canon, like part of the whole thing. Yeah,
that's
pretty crazy. Yeah, I was reminiscing yesterday about the Necrothon and that first race with Arya and the stress level. And just as a quick aside, that character can really get inside your head because when we did that, I went to bed at 8 p.m. my time to wake up at 2 a.m. to have an hour to be actually awake for 3 a.m. when the Necrothon started, and that was a Monday morning. And then and then I had to go to work the next day, and we started that race, and it was Brex, and it was Hoffington, and I'm forgetting who the fourth person was.
I think it was Nintendork.
Nintendork, of course. And the four of us were racing, and I mean, the state of mind I was in, and just so afraid to die. And then, of course, that's when I died to the lead boots and got really salty at the lead boots because I stepped on some ice and died, and I was mad because I didn't move. But yeah, and Brex ended up winning it and that sort of stuff, but it took like 4 hours or something. And so that morning, I spent like 4 hours just like any mistake I make will die. And also, Aria was pretty hard back then because there was a lot of things not in the game that are now.
Yeah.
It was a lot harder to get damage up. It was there was no shrines. There was none of that kind of stuff. And so I remember I was in a meeting that morning, and I was in such a mindset, an Aria mindset, even though I was at work talking to my boss, that I had this thing in the back of my head going, oh God, if I screw up, I might die. Like I had this like, I'm not even kidding. It was so ingrained in me from that morning. I mean, it was so messed up because normally you don't wake up at 2 in the morning and then play this game for, 4 or 5 hours. And then I go to work like without sleeping. And then I was just like, and I remember it was just, I was so aware of everything I was saying because I was so paying attention to my every movement because I was afraid that I would screw up.
It's funny because Aria, I think for everyone who's like almost finished their first Aria run, you just get so hyper perceptive of everything. You start feeling like how your fingers are resting on the keyboard and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like this is so gross.
It's
and you stop
real weird. I can't even imagine DJ what his whole perception of the Coda racing is.
And like when Brex he won that race, of course. He died on King Konga on the like 3 boss.
Yes, he did.
King Konga the first
that.
time. Yeah. And just raged for like 20 minutes.
I remember.
And then came back. But then when Hoffington won, I mean, Hoffington he's so great for interacting with the chat all the time. He's just nonstop. I mean, even during Aria, there's no problem.
Yeah.
And as soon as he got to like 3-1 of the great build, he was like, okay, and he just stared, and he just like slumped and just stared at the screen and didn't talk for so
that's
long.
Hilarious.
And we're like, it's happening. He's finally dialed in.
Yeah. You can get through 1 and 2, no problem, but Zone 3, gotta hone it in. And Zone 3 is sketchy with like the hot coals, and ice is so much more deadly if you accidentally move and that sort of thing.
More swarming back then too.
That's also true. There was a lot more swarming in Zone 3. Yeah, that's so true. All right, cool.
Yeah, that was
so
definitely
quickly,
a highlight of my career. That's a great night.
With regards to the Coda thing, though, so Coda was created, if I'm not mistaken, as a sort of replacement for the most difficult character because Aria wasn't actually that difficult.
Yeah, and I was just trying to think, what can we do that is probably humanly possible? Like there's a chance, but it's still really freaking hard because I just wanted there to be an ultimate challenge that would last for many months, but it may not last for many months because DJ is a robot.
Close. Did you see any of last night? We actually had him do a showcase on the Condor stream at the end of the races. Partly because we wanted to make sure that DJ had a chance to be part of this tournament because he's such an important part of the community, and he was working, so he couldn't take part in the tournament. So we figured we'd do a Coda showcase, and for about like 40 minutes or so, we had a bunch of people basically commentate his Coda play, and he actually made it to 3-3 with like the build, but he just died to a misbeat. 2 misbeats back to back, lost his potion, and then died. And he's like, "Yep, that happened." And of course, in typical DJ fashion, he was just like, "Okay, next one." It's like, oh man, this guy. He's either a serial killer or like the the coolest cucumber of the whole bushel.
Yeah, we love you, DJ. We love you.
So.
He's like, I imagine him like Data from Star Wars or Star Trek, where he's a robot, but he's like a lovable robot.
Absolutely.
You cheer for him. You love him so much. So that's DJ.
And he endeavors to become human.
Someday, yes. Someday I will bleed blood. Okay, so do you have any background information about Coda, or was Coda just created to be like a non-human character Like, what was the sort of design choice there?
Yeah, I just said to Ted, like, hey, what do you want this character to be like? And at that point in development, we were like super busy and frantic. I had lots of other stuff going on, so I didn't actually even, give him much input. I thought that he was just gonna, I expected he was gonna come back with some humanoid type person, but he came back with what Coda looks like, and it was freaking cool. It's neat that Coda is so different from the rest of the characters, and she looks different too. Yeah. So I thought, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. And the evil kind of tail is perfect because Coda's so hard and
so
evil. Seems appropriate for a to design a non-human character to be played by non-humans.
Exactly. Exactly true.
Androids.
Yeah,
yep.
for sure. Okay, so Jack DL asked, I'm curious about the backstory behind Monk, Dove, Bolt, and Eli's shovel hand. So, I mean, obviously that's a lot, but basically, if I can preface it, because we do have a lot of questions, I don't want to take way too much time, but it seemed, at least from my experience, is that you had these modes designed into the game, and you just need to create a character to sort of fulfill them. And the Monk one I know was sort of, me and the boss were playing no gold mode. I'm not sure if that had something to do with it. I know that you were trying to design these sort of non-story based characters to sort of have just an interesting way to play the game. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was definitely based on the gameplay first, but I had ideas about how what the characters were like and things like that. The Monk, I think, is super cool. Like the fact that he's got this vow of poverty, and why is he in there? Like why would a monk like him even go?
But don't tell Rat that. Oh man, does Rat hate Monk so much? He just wants to pick up the gold.
Yeah, it's true. It's tough. Yeah, the gameplay is difficult, but I think the character himself, he's super neat. So yeah, I have some ideas, but I'm not going to talk about them because if we decide to do some DLC or an expansion or whatever, then we might explore some of those things, and so I don't want to spoil them ahead of time.
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, there was definitely some characters that I had access to that are no longer in the game, or ways to play the game that were replaced, that were fairly interesting. Probably not as dynamic or interesting as the ones that were finally put in, which is probably why they were swapped. But yeah, we don't have to go down that road. Eli's shovel hand, is there any sort of backstory? Did he just blow his hand off with one of his bombs and never learn his lesson?
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I ended up going with the bomb thing for him. Like all of the characters, we tried a bunch of different ways. I think actually Melody was the most difficult one for us to design, because I tried so many different things. Oliver was doing a lot of the work. I'd be like, okay, Oliver, let's try making the loot work like this or like that or like that, and then he'd code it and I'd try it, and I was like, it just didn't feel right. And so finally, the day that I had told everybody that the new character was coming, that morning I was just frantically trying all kinds of stuff and made her the way that she is now, and it felt super cool.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
it's like universally loved the way that Melody plays.
She's one of the favorite characters. Yeah, I breathed a huge sigh of relief as soon as I had that, because it's neat that she's kind of powerful and has a unique playstyle, but also she's weak because she can't get damage ups and stuff like that. So it's exactly the type of character that I wanted. It just finally came. So Eli was similar. I think we originally had him doing lots of different digging stuff, like he was going to have, because of the shovel hand, which actually came first. The shovel hand was just because Jesse Turner, the artist who does all the high-res stuff, when he made the concept for Eli, he had a shovel hand. Because I don't know if you follow Jesse on Twitter. I don't know if somebody can link Jesse in the chat.
I don't know if I actually do.
You should. He produces such amazing stuff. Like he bangs out crazy monster concepts and character concepts all the time and posts them. And pretty much all of them have some kind of wacky thing going on, similar to Eli's shovel hand. I think Eli is one of the, not nearly as wacky actually as a lot of his other stuff. So if you like, interesting character designs, check him out. And so I think he couldn't resist putting in something wacky, and so he put in the shovel hand. I'm like, that's freaking cool.
Pretty wacky. I remember one of my favorite parts of the mini doc was him being like, yeah, I come up with all these ridiculous character designs, and then all right, good luck, Ted. And then of course nails it with death metal and stuff like that, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, Jesse has ideas on ideas, and he works so fast. Arachnus linked the Slick Entertainment dev stream in there. A game I'm working on, so just so you know, full disclosure.
Nice. That's
But
okay.
yeah, Viking Squad. He works so fast, and I looked on the story about him. He went to a job fair when he finished school, and he just had no portfolio. So everyone at this job fair has, like, you know, all their work on the back wall and like across the table, just splayed out, just displaying everything they've ever done. And he's there with his feet up and his bandana on and just a sketchbook, being like, "What? What do you want?" And this guy walks up. He's like, "Where's your portfolio?" He says, "Oh, what do you want? I'll just draw it for you." And he's like, "I don't know," and he just told him something. And Jesse just drew it, and he says, "You want a job?" And he had him on the spot with no portfolio.
Dang.
So like this is how this guy operates. He just has ideas on ideas, and he works so fast.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Alrighty, let's move on to a couple more here. So Sora T, one of my mods, and also a great racer, she asked if there was any ideas for characters that didn't make it. Of course, we had already sort of alluded to that, but this part of the question I particularly like: was the protagonist someone else at some point?
Yeah, originally, I think it's people just always sort of have the default mindset that, hey, we're making a game, well, let's, you know, the guy's a dude, and he was originally a dude just because I was using, I don't know if you saw in the mini documentary, there was me using placeholder art, and that art was actually from Derek Yu, the creator of Spelunky, because he had posted this on his blog. He's like, here's some RPG pixel art if you guys want it for games or prototypes or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, I'll throw that stuff in there. I definitely intended to replace it, but it was good, you know, dungeon crawling, top-down stuff. It was exactly the type of thing that I needed for the prototype. And the dude in there is a dude, right? So, yeah, originally that's what we were talking about when we were coming up with, when Ted was finally making concepts for the main character. We thought that, you know, it might be a guy, but he prototyped, concepted a bunch of women as well, on the same document, and I'm glad that he did. As soon as I saw that, one of them kind of looked like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is my favorite movie of all time. If you guys haven't seen that, it's a Japanese anime by Miyazaki Studio Ghibli. It's like one of their first movies that they did. So check that out, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. And yeah, this character reminded me of Nausicaa, and she's my favorite character of all time. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, it has to be her. And then my wife,
I see the resemblance. I looked it up on Google here.
My wife came up with the name, Cadence, the pun,
Nice.
and just seemed to fit, and her
Factory.
personality started evolving from there. And
Yeah, she's a great character. I think it's nice to see strong female characters in video games. I know that that's sort of becoming a hot button issue, and I think that's really awesome. So definitely kudos from me anyways. And yeah, that's very interesting. And it's also interesting, yeah, it's just sort of the automatic, like, okay, well, here's my dude character. And that might be somewhat inspired by or come out of the fact that that's the way video games have been for so long, that it's just the automatic default. But yeah, it's good to be open-minded and switch those things up. That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of ashamed that when I realized that that's what my brain was doing, it was just putting in default dude, like he's a dude. Why the heck does he have to be a dude? And so now I think that I've had this experience, my brain has changed and things aren't just default dude anymore, and hopefully the other designers or other, you know, people who make art or comics or movies or whatever are also, you know, not just in default dude mindset either.
I think that's absolutely a great way to think about things for sure. All right, cool. Question from Jack DL, not a surprising question from Jack DL. What's the plans for future mod support? LUA or Lua scripting? I don't actually know what that is. Is that coming back? And possibility to add your own items, enemies, terrain?
Yeah, we were originally coding it so that you could affect enemy behaviors and things like that in Lua, but every time we added a new ability to the game or new item that, you know, did something completely new, we had to add hooks such that Lua could, you know, access that stuff and interact with it, and it was slowing down development so much. And it's kind of difficult when you're, you know, the game's not out, you're not making money, you're burning your savings and stuff, and you have to, you know, and you're taking longer making the game because of something that you don't even know if it's gonna be used, right? Like, only a small percentage of people actually, you know, ever make mods. A larger percentage of them will play mods, sure, but it's still like, I'm sure it's only like 10% of people ever check out the Steam Workshop.
Drop in the bucket for sure.
Right, and so you know, when you're still not sure if your game is even going to be successful at all, you kind of have to prioritize. And so at that point, we're like, it's going to take twice as long if we keep doing this.
Yeah.
And so we had to cut it. And so that's why you see some Lua files in there, but they're unfinished and they don't work. So we could go back through and, you know, recode everything to make it work with Lua, but it would be a lot of work. I think, unfortunately, it's just, you know, if the game sold, you know, tens of millions of dollars worth, then it would probably be worth it for us. But it's not, you know, it's doing well, but it's not doing insanely well like that. So I think it's just not worth our time to go back and do that, as much as I would like to. Like, I would love to support you guys and let you do those sorts of things, but I just, you know, we gotta feed our families and things like that. There's lots of people working on these games, and also it's fun to, you know, but the reason why we get into the game industry is because it's fun making and designing new games, whereas, you know, recoding something you've already done is not as fun. So, you know, we would prefer to, you know, work on another game, or, you know, come back someday and perhaps do a DLC or something like that, something new. But yeah, like gutting your code and redoing it is just just isn't fun.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll go on the record saying this, you guys don't have to comment, but certainly something that we see with the Isaac community is, I think there's a lot of sort of myopic people in the community who are like, why isn't Edmund listening to us? You know, we're running this racing, or we're doing all this stuff, and look at all this parts of the game that are broken in terms of racing. But I mean, I would imagine that racing is such a fraction of the actual clientele of Isaac that it doesn't really even make sense to even go down that road. And you can make a small community and maybe vocal community happy, but ultimately, yeah, if you're going to be spending that much time reworking your code or whatever, it's just not worth it financially. And yeah, you need to move on to other things. So that's at least my 2 cents on that as well. All right, so Arachnus asked, what is the most surprising thing that ever happened, or that just happened to work out during the course of the development of the game?
Hang on a sec. I just wanted to comment on something that people are Eternal Mage is saying in chat. He's saying this game isn't selling well. No, it's definitely selling well. It's just not selling tens of millions of dollars worth, such that, you know, it would be worth it for us to go back and, you know, make changes like that.
Right. Or you know, hire people too.
Yeah, exactly. We could do it, but we're making a good living off of the game for sure. It's selling well for, you know, indie game standards. It's like a moderate hit. It's not a massive hit, but, you know, it's a medium-sized hit, which is great. But there are a lot of people who worked on the game, so the money gets split in many ways. So yeah, nobody's super rich off of it or anything like that. But we can keep doing what we love doing, which is, you know, making games and hanging out with our community like we're doing right now. So, you know, we're really appreciative that it has gone this well. So thank you guys.
Yeah,
go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry, I lost my keyboard for a second there. I mean, I can say myself, and I mean my team, and I'm sure the majority of people working on this project, we had like an amazing time doing it, and, you know, we're all making a decent living doing so. So, like saying you're like, oh, we're not getting like filthy rich. I mean, really, I love my job, and we're working on awesome stuff creatively. Like, I'm like collaborating with guys like Ryan and such. So, like, I'm not concerned at all with the cash.
And I hope that, like, there's also the rewarding factor, and I think I've heard you say this before, Ryan, but like, you know that the game is, the reviews it's getting are that it's a unique, something totally novel. It's also one of the top rated on Steam. Like, it's like in the top 3 or 5, which is absurd considering how many games are on Steam. And so with all that together, I think there's more value than just how much Benjamins you get out of it. At least I hope.
Yeah. You don't get into making games, or at least you shouldn't. I don't think, if you're trying to get rich, because so many people are trying to make games. The competition is pretty fierce and insane. So your chances of getting rich are slim. But you know, the chance of being able to survive and, you know, make games for a living, it's possible, and that's what we're trying to do. And so so far so good. And yeah, I think it's more important to me that we make a good game that people, you know, recognize as unique and special, rather than trying to make a free-to-play game or something like that, which could possibly make tens of millions of dollars. You know, I'm happier to see that we have, you know, really pleased some of our super fanatic fans, and that we've made something that, you know, has gameplay that's novel, that's never been done before. That's the type of thing that I aspire to anyway, as a game designer, you know, making cool new experiences that get people really excited.
Nice. Yeah, that I love it. That's great. Okay, so yeah, just quickly, Arachnus asked the most surprising thing that happened during the development. Was it like some certain bugs that ended up being features, like the monkey bomb strats, or was there something else that kind of just happened that was like, oh my goodness, this is...
there's so many tiny ones that, there's so many tiny things that I would like report Ryan as a bug? Question mark?
Slash feature,
things like, what's a good one? So a good one's this. So Shrine of Risk plus a wide weapon like flail or broadsword or whip plus Zone 2 mushrooms plus Shrine of Risk. And you don't take damage from it. It's like this crazy, crazy edge case. And I went to Ryan, I was like, what do you think? He's like, it's pretty cool, I don't know, let's leave it.
So if you attack on the beat that you would normally take
so typically you take a hit on that first beat. Since your first movement attacks a mushroom and you get courage from it, it blocks the Shrine of Risk damage.
Oh, the courage. Oh, I missed that. Yeah, that is awesome. That's some of these
bizarre.
Combos. Yeah.
It's
actually,
like
you guys missed
four
it.
things coming together.
Yeah, that's amazing. There was Ray was actually trying to run a ring of gold gold longsword through the game, which can be really strong, but it's so much meta thinking on like lining up characters and stuff. But it's like kill something and then the beat after it, after you move, then you have infinite damage. And he managed to chain together a couple really nice kills, which is super cool. Obviously, there's some intention there, but it's nice when these sort of combos of the items kind of just work together in certain ways. It's cool. See these sort of synergies that aren't necessarily, I assume, necessarily programmed in, but work out that way.
Yeah, there was, I think that, I'll say one more here, Ron, I'll let you give your answer if you have one, but at first PAX Prime we were at, Ryan had just put in the concept of obsidian, and there was an obsidian dagger, and that's it. And it wasn't, like the coin multiplier worked kind of differently back then. It was like a groove chain based on how many enemies you'd killed, and it was a bit different, but the concept was the same. Like the more in the groove you were, the more damage you do. And you know, it's kind of a new game to everyone. Everyone's having a good time with it. It had the reception at PAX Prime was fantastic, and this one guy came up and was just killing it and like was not missing any beats. He got an obsidian dagger, and most people that got it, we'd be like, oh, you don't want that because it's kind of it's like an advanced kind of high level piece of inventory.
Sure.
And this guy picks it up. We all just stayed quiet because we're like, this guy's killing it. He's probably going to use it to great benefit. And he walks up to a black skeleton, which at the time was the only 3-heart enemy in Zone 1, like which is all it was at PAX Prime, right? Yeah. And he walks up with like a 12-kill groove chain and one-shots this skeleton, and we all went nuts because it happened one. Like, how many playthroughs were there of all the computers and the dance pad at PAX Prime? Like 500 playthroughs probably that all ended like there was like 12 finished or something. Yeah. And that happened one time over the entire weekend. So we kind of when you have like a game that's very, very pre-alpha and there's like one situation that happens a single time over like 500 playthroughs, that was a highlight of the weekend for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really, really fascinating. Actually, with that, one of the viewers here, Lancer, actually got 2 green bats on the same floor. Which
I saw a tweet or something about that.
Imagine. I'll post it in chat, and you can check it out if you're watching chat. But yeah, 2 green bats on the same floor, which I think that's some astronomical level of like.
Yeah.
The chances of that are so minimal.
Go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah,
Today's
seriously.
your day.
Oh, and incoming a donation from Ronan, $3 donation. Dev interviews, bonus hype, ergo bonus combo donation. Nice, thank you, Ronan, for that. Awesome. Ronan of Dreams, of course, the guy who developed the wind spell yell. He was the guy who always did it in my chat. So that's awesome. Cool. Was there anything of particular note that came to you, Ryan, with regards to something that just happened to work out that was like awesome?
Well, I think yeah, stuff like you were mentioning, like the monkeys and things. But I think the most surprising thing that's happened during the whole project for me is the community stuff. Like, I didn't expect you guys were going to exist and make this racing league, which is freaking amazing. I didn't expect Japan was going to go nuts and have their own racing stuff going on over there. I didn't expect
breathtaking fan art.
Yeah, I didn't expect all the
God.
fan art.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. I've had games before, like Incredibots. It was one of my most popular games before this that had a massive community, which was neat, but I didn't Twitch didn't exist, and I didn't really interact with the community as much as I do with you guys, and I don't get to put faces to the names as much as I have with this game. So it's pretty neat to see how game development works now compared to how it worked back then. And I guess I wasn't quite mentally prepared for the possibility of these sorts of amazing things happening. So yeah, it has been great, and I hope that I get to meet more of you guys at future PAXs and things like that. Like meeting you, Elad, and then having all this happen is crazy. Like,
yeah, I remember our meetup, and I was just kind of like, I think I actually said, "Shut up and take my money." Like I was like, how do I get this game as soon as possible? I remember doing that, and I remember getting lasered by a red dragon while playing on a dance pad the first time, which was super great. So yeah, awesome. Yep. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have here? Sorry, was it? Oh, Sora T, just a quick yes or no on this one. Are the ballet shoes ever coming back to Bolt ever?
I don't think so. I think it makes it too easy. Well, not easier for Bolt, I guess, but easier to get money. I don't know. It kind of takes away one of the things that is core to Bolt and Coda as well. Like if it was in there for Coda, that would be the one item you just kind of reset until you get it, right? So I don't want it to be in for those two guys.
Fair enough. I think that makes perfect sense. Will actually had a question here. He said he remembered hearing that you had a chemistry degree or something, and was wondering how you transitioned into the video game industry.
It's microbiology. I started out in biochemistry, and then I switched to microbiology, and I actually do have a degree in microbiology. And then I actually tried... I'm super into like human psychology and stuff, and I dropped out of a second degree in psychology after that. But I was always making games since I was a kid. Like since I was 6, my dad taught me to program on our Apple IIe. Okay. Just because I had run out of games. Like back then, there was no internet, of course. And this was like 1984, and you trade floppy disks with people. And yeah, I'd run out of stuff, and so my dad said, "Well, you can make your own stuff," and showed me how to program in BASIC. And so that's when I started making obviously horrible games because I was 6, but I never stopped. And eventually I learned C++ and was making C++ games when I was a teen, and always doing it as a hobby. And I also had websites that I created that tried to help other people learn how to make games. Eventually I had a game programming website in Visual Basic, which was kind of an easier language to get started in, but it was hard to make games in, so I made a website to teach people how to make games in that. And then I started the Game Programming Wiki, which is still online. It's gpwiki.org. I don't run it anymore, but ran that for a few years. And I think teaching other people how to make games, helping them learn, forces you to know it yourself very well, because if you're going to write an article about how to do such and such, you have to research all the angles and make sure that you've got your stuff straight, right? Sure. So I think that experience kind of led to me eventually making games for a living. I was during my doing that degree, that microbiology degree, in the summers I was doing programming as my summer job, just because when I was a kid I learned how to program, and so that was the type of job that I was able to get, and so I was doing programming for accounting software. So yeah, I had quite a bit of experience programming, and then eventually decided that I wanted to quit doing that sort of stuff and try making games full-time. And so a friend of mine from university who was a medical doctor, he just finished his degree, and I had just quit my job. We decided that we were gonna try and make games together, because he was an artist as well. So one guy with a microbi degree and one guy who was a doctor making games. And luckily enough, even back then in 2004 when we started, the situation was a lot different. You couldn't get your games on Steam and things like that. There were a few other websites around where you could try and sell on, but most of it was just from our own website, just getting word of mouth organically, and we managed to make a living doing it. And yeah, I can't believe that we managed to make a living doing it looking back now, because it was so much harder back then. But I'm glad that we did, and glad that I was able to keep going until I improved my skills enough that I could create something cool like NecroDancer. Finally made something that I was proud of my other games for sure, but this one feels like the most unique, the best one that I've done for sure.
I like it. That's awesome. Sorry, just quickly, a $10 donation from Mick Bashty. Thank you so much, Mick Bashty. Said, I don't play the game much, but I love the community and watching you guys stream. Thanks, Ryan, and thanks, streamers. Probs L, which is one of the hearts.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing. People who just like to, that's something that, as a streamer, I have to explain to people a lot. Is like, wait, people go and just watch you play video games?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, they do, and it is sort of a like for older people, it tends to be like, what, really? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, you know, I think it's like it's TV, like you're visually watching something that's entertaining you.
Yeah, I name.
But there's that community aspect, and I think that is what makes it that much more interesting. Is
It's
that you
better
can
than watching like poker.
Yeah.
Like watch poker on ESPN or TSN or whatever, and it's like you're not gonna talk to them.
Yeah, it's like I
just
could talk
a fly on
to
the wall.
Phil Hellmuth or whatever his name is while he's like, hey man, are you gonna bluff this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that I think it's interesting that there's like people who just watch NecroDancer, and maybe it's not their, you know, maybe they're not good at it or they don't want to or whatever. But it's cool, and there's definitely, I mean, I've had a ton of people who are like, what is this game? And then we explain it, and they're like, cool. And then they come back next stream, and then I just got the game, and you know, I've made it through, you know, zone 1, 2, and it's like, oh, that's awesome. And you know, it's cool to see people sort of pick up the game and see them move through it. And actually, just on release, I gifted the game to Elas, my fiance, and she has gotten to the NecroDancer now on all zones mode, so she's getting good.
Awesome.
Which is pretty cool.
It's worth saying as well with
Sure.
the surprising thing that Ryan was saying regarding the community and such, and just everything forming up around the game, and you know, this like the fact that I'm on the stream right now with you guys is pretty insane. And really the Necrothon is a big part of why I became a lot more kind of invested in Twitch. And I was on occasionally, you know, I'd watch you know, marathons or big like esport events or whatever on Twitch, but nothing really like daily. And I'm on Twitch daily. Like every single day I'm on Twitch. It's just open on a tab at all times, no question.
Yeah.
And I mean, as far as our dev streams go, I mean, we've been doing that for a long time. I've established some relationships with people at Twitch who love what we're doing. I mean, we did the Darkest Dungeon thing. I've been in streams just saying thanks to those folks for playing the game, and kind of doing the same thing as the community involvement with NecroDancer, but with Darkest Dungeon or with Action Hank or whatever.
Right.
And I mean, Twitch is fast becoming, I mean, it probably already has become a massive part of our business model, and it's awesome. And I mean, now some of you may have already heard that Power Up Audio, my company, is we're handling the audio for Summer Games Done Quick this year as well. So we'll be like at this awesome charity marathon, like for a good cause, with
I saw that.
a
That's
massive
so
event full of nerds just doing what we love, you know.
So you're
It's
gonna be there?
awesome. We're gonna be on site handling audio. We have 4 of us.
That's
So we'll be
actually
monitoring
great,
audio at all
'cause
times.
I've seen some audio issues in the past.
That's why I got in touch. Yeah, I'm really good friends with the Tiny Build guys, and they sponsored in January.
Yeah.
So I hit up Luke and I was like, hey, can you put me in touch, please? And then, yeah, so we're doing that now. And I mean, I'm certain that there's no way I could have even come to this for a variety of reasons. This is a lot of kind of variables that added together to you know, lead to our approaching Games Done Quick to say, can we do this? And now it's just a given. Like, of course we're gonna do it, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really, really cool. Actually, one of my goals is to do Dance Pad NecroDancer at GDQ at some point. I really want to.
I'll be there.
I
I'll be
really
there.
want to. I can't do it at GDQ because I'm getting married that week, but maybe next
Oh, yeah.
time. Cool. All right, so we still have a decent number, so maybe we can plow through a little quicker on these here.
Sure.
So any plans for a console port?
Something's gonna happen. I just can't tell you what.
Okay, that's fine. We can go
Exciting
with that.
things.
For Kevin, based on besides NecroDancer, what was your favorite game to work on?
Oh, you can't go and ask a guy a question like that. I do appreciate that you said besides NecroDancer, though, because I mean,
I didn't want to make. Yeah.
you're like, well, Ryan, obviously it's NecroDancer. You know, it's tough because I've worked on a lot of games. I mean, with my old company and this company, I've worked on like 300 games.
Oh, okay.
So it's real tough.
Yeah.
To be like, fair. Oh well, obviously this one. But as far as played hours, NecroDancer is up top. As far as and that's not just like testing. That's like legitimately just open the game to play it. You know, in terms of, I mean, Towerfall Ascension's up there also. I mean, I'm among the world's best players, and that game just gets more and more fun as you get better at it. So, you know, going to big conferences, going to tournaments there's very few things that are more fun. I played against Ryan Clark, actually, at the Humble Bundle First annual Towerfall Invitational.
And who won?
And I
Jury.
barely won.
That's
it was
amazing.
it was a 5-point last man standing, best of 3, and I think I went 3 games. And it was like 5-4 every game. It was super
Awesome.
close,
Awesome.
and my knees were shaking the entire time. And Ryan's there, cool as a cucumber, being like, yeah, whatever.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so like probably Towerfall.
Nice. Okay. So for Ryan, was this is from Will Arseny. Was weapon balance a major consideration in Zone 4 by design? Like certain weapons seem to get a little worse once you hit Zone 4, like flails and things like that. Was that intentional to make you have to like switch up your build?
Yeah, I didn't want certain weapons to be like super weak. I don't know if I agree that flails are that weak. I still like them in Zone 4, but I wanted it to feel a lot different, so that you might want to change your weapon, right? Because it kind of does suck that, like, oh hey, glass rapier, you got rapier, you're gonna keep it all the way through.
Yeah.
Maybe something would be better. Maybe dagger is better. You know, new players especially, they're all about bows and crossbows and rifles and things like that, which are good, but they can also troll you in Zone 4. So I wanted them to have to think about it more. And I do like a broadsword in Zone 4. I like a dagger. So yeah, I was not trying to nerf any one thing in particular, but just to try and make it feel different and make you question your choices, and also have to think more differently about what you're going to hit and what the repercussions of hitting things
Makes sense.
was going to be.
Yeah, I think like I've changed my tune slightly about crossbows because they're so much better in Zone 4. Nice.
Yeah, especially now that we've added the piercing thing, they're pretty sweet.
The Blade Masters are what suck up a lot of time, and so being able to pretty much one-shot them is great. So a question here from Amac11: is there any chance you'll team up with other developers to add bonus characters like Shovel Knight, Commander Video, Meat Boy, or anything of that sort?
Yeah, people have asked us about that sort of thing, but I guess we might if the character design made sense, but we don't want to just add, like, throw things in and have them be crummy. Like,
right.
We would only do it if a character was, actually made a lot of sense and,
like
and
in
felt
Meat
good.
Boy, it does make sense to have those other characters because they'll add a different sort of element to the gameplay. But I don't really see how like Meat Boy would be useful.
No.
Unless
yeah,
you just made him bolt or bard.
Wall jumping.
Perfect.
Jump on top of the walls.
Go down.
Yeah,
you can go down a trapdoor and then come back out of it if you want. Yeah.
Being like a spider and going on the walls, that would be pretty neat.
Oh no, that'd be interesting for sure. Okay, question from the Game Sire: will you look to partner with Danny B again on any future endeavors?
I would definitely look to partner with him. He's obviously one of the best, if not the best, game musicians out there. So, if you're working with a dude like that, why would you not want to keep working with him? And he's just super fun. He's a good friend of mine now, and yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I assume he's
me
probably
too,
a pretty
same thing.
busy boy.
He's super collaborative. He's great to work with.
Yeah, that's sort of been what I've gathered from all the thing. And he also he supports the Condor a lot too, which is really great.
Yeah,
nice
he's involved in
Twitch a lot.
In Twitch, but he's also like, he's not the type of guy who's gonna just throw music at you and say, I'm done. He gets involved in the project a lot more. Like the Singing Shopkeeper was his idea. The fading stuff in Zone 3 where it's hot and cold, that's his idea. Like a lot of these things, a lot of the game, feels the way it does because Danny was involved and loved the game and wanted it to be as good as it could be. So, yeah, and Kevin is exactly that type of guy as well. Like he obviously raced the game a lot and did lots of stuff with his Twitch streams and gave tons of feedback. And these are the types of guys that you want to work with because they're not just there to get a paycheck and be done with it. They're there because they love making games as much as I do and want the game to be amazing. And that's why it is amazing, is because the team that we managed to put together for this game was nuts. It's definitely the best team by far that we've ever had. So that's why the game is so good. So yeah, of course I would like to work with Danny and Kevin and everybody again because it went so well and so smoothly this time.
Sure. Yeah, and I imagine that you do get a bit of the Danny B bump. I think that has to be a thing because I've definitely seen people coming into a channel new to NecroDancer and going like, "Oh my god, this music is amazing!" And it's like, "This is Danny B," and then everyone's like, he's almost got like a stamp of approval. Like it's like, you know, Danny B was on this game, so it's good, which is interesting. I've seen that certainly a bunch, which is pretty cool. Question from the boss: did the speedrun aspect of the game make you change Zone 4 to its current style rather than the 8 paths it used to be in the past? Which of course was the Zone 4 was very interesting before when you switched it up. Or was there another reason?
Yeah, it was, I guess, partly speedrunning. It was, I don't know, we were just, you guys just happened to see, you know, one iteration of it.
Yeah.
Which was a weird iteration, and yeah, it was never meant to be seen because it was not done, right? Like, we try all kinds of stuff. Like, you also saw other characters that sucked, and you saw, you know, versions of Zone 4 and different enemies that sucked. Like, we had troll enemies in there that you damage and they'd run away and they'd heal and stuff. And it kind of makes sense. There's a lot of enemies that we put in that make sense on paper, but when you play them, it's just freaking annoying, right? Like,
feels wrong, yeah.
So yeah, that's how, at least for this game, the design kind of had to work. Like, you try stuff that seems to make sense, and then you play it and feel it. And if it doesn't feel right, then you iterate and iterate. And so, like I said, that's how it worked with Melody, and that's how it worked with Zone 4. I think Zone 4 especially was super stressful for me because people had been playing
the
first
hype
three.
Was real.
Yeah, the hype
I can
was
only
serious,
imagine.
People have been playing the first 3 zones for so long, and Zone 3 was already quite hard, but Zone 4 needed to be, you know, hard, but in a different way. So yeah, it took a long time. I was excited when I finally came up with the idea of the digging, breaking adjacent blocks, because I wanted the game, obviously the feel of the zone to be different, but I knew that you needed to be at least slightly swarmed in order for it to be difficult. Because if, no matter how hard an enemy is, like a red dragon is a hard enemy, but if you just got a red dragon, you're going to kill him. If it's just a red dragon, there's no problem. Yeah. So you needed to have, somewhat like Zone 3, a bit of swarming. And so as soon as I came up with that idea of the digging the walls such that, you know, the adjacent ones also break, and harpies are going to come at you right away. They were critical to the design as well. They're pretty easy to deal with, but they kind of force you to do things you wouldn't do without them.
You have to prioritize them, even though they're lame. Like, they're not going to do much to you, but you have to prioritize them. I think that's interesting, because I've always played with the mentality, and the way I explain it to people is when you kick open a door, you sort of survey the room, and you have to prioritize who's the first people you have to deal with in that. And it has to be the harpies. Even when there's a blade master closer to you, you have to back off and let the harpies get to you. Otherwise, they're going to trap you, and then you're going to get wrecked by a blade master. So
yeah, them and the wraiths, all the different types of wraiths in the game, they don't hit you very hard. They're not actually that threatening of an enemy, but they make people panic. They make people, you know, do things that they wouldn't otherwise do, and that's why they're in there. People complain sometimes that wraiths are kind of unfair. Well, I don't think that they're unfair, because they always give you enough space that you can deal with them, and also they only do a small amount of damage, so you can usually just
they used to be unfair.
They used to be unfair, and
True.
And they used to be on characters, which was very unfair.
We fixed it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fixed.
Yeah, so I have 2 more questions, and then we're going to move on to the next race. First of which is, what's next for both of you? What's your next project? I know, Ryan, you sort of alluded but didn't necessarily say. Is it that you can't say, or do you have an idea?
We're still busy doing other NecroDancer stuff. Like, we're translating it to other languages. That stuff is going to come soonish. We're bringing it to some other platforms, which I can't say which ones or when yet, but
that's exciting. I really hope it's mobile, because I want to play NecroDancer on the John at work.
So we've got a lot of stuff like that still left to do, and obviously some bugs to fix still. So we're going to get all that stuff done, and then we're going to start working on a new game. I can't say what game it's going to be, because I always, you know, prototype games and see how they feel before we, you know, announce anything. So it's going to be something. And but yeah, don't know what it is yet. Can't comment on that.
Fair enough. What about you, Kevin?
Well, we're always pretty busy, right? I mean, we have a pretty sizable team at Power Up. We got like 3 full-time and 3 part-time ish, and so I mean, right now we just finished up shipping. I guess rockets shipped this month, as well as Action Hank on Monday. and the Towerfall Ascension Dark World DLC on Tuesday. So those are all done. As far as what we have coming up, like Starcrawlers is in early access, Time Spinners in development, Darkest Dungeons is in early access. There's a May update coming to the end of the month with new bosses and 2 new classes, the Man-at-Arms and the Arbalist, and some new surprises. We're doing this first-person shooter called Bunker Punk. It's a roguelike, kind of like Doom, but with more